All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. We're looking at a completely overpowered powerhouse who gets dropped into a brand new magical world. This is a cinematic journey that perfectly blends high-stakes action, empire building, and a romance that literally transcends space and time. Meet Seol Mudok, a man who conquered his own world only to find himself starting entirely from scratch in another.
I mean, imagine taking the absolute apex predator from a universe built on brutal survival of the fittest martial arts and just dropping him right in the middle of a bunch of arrogant nobles who have literally never been punched in the mouth. It's like watching a guy play on beginner mode with auto assist turned on while everyone else is sweating for their lives. This is exactly what happens when the Lord of the North Sea Ice Palace crosses dimensions.
So what's the actual difference in power here? Well, it all comes down to chi versus mana. In this new world, the Drak Kingdom, mages use complex magic circles and mana to cast spells. It takes time and effort. But our guy, Mudok, he channels raw chi directly from his Dantian, which is basically his internal life force. His martial arts are so wildly advanced that the locals literally cannot comprehend his movements. To them, he is just a walking anomaly.
But you know, Mudok isn't just some wandering fighter. Before a massive magical tsunami dragged him to the Draz Kingdom, our overpowered main character actually conquered a whole continent, the whole thing. But it was a hollow victory because the woman he loved, Hu Yang, was killed during the war. He spent 3 grueling years searching every corner of his world for her reincarnated soul, guided only by a glowing pendant she gave him.
Fast forward, and he suddenly wakes up wedged in a foreign carriage, completely disoriented. But within minutes, he casually saves a merchant group from a swarm of giant, deadly flies by freezing them solid with his divine ice palm. The merchant leader, Edmund Royal, hands him a magical translation ring, and Mudok realizes pretty quickly he's in a totally different world, a world of magic, wyverns, and 3 moons in the sky.
Now here is where it gets really fun. His insanely lethal martial arts, they accidentally launch a wildly successful business. It's a sweltering hot day, so he uses his icy chi to cool down some water. And because he uses chi instead of mana, which usually leaves this bitter aftertaste, his ice is flawlessly pure. It is an instant, mind-blowing revelation to the locals.
So he doesn't just fight, he builds a dessert empire. He partners up with Edmund Royal for a sweet 60-40 profit split, selling an early version of fruit ice cream. And he actually uses his unique cold chi to help people too. Like he delicately freezes and destroys deadly parasite eggs inside the heart of a local girl named Savina. Plus, he establishes one very strict rule at his shop. Absolutely no one, not even the most arrogant noble, gets to cut the ice cream line.
And what happens when someone breaks that rule? Well, Mudok absolutely wrecks them. An entitled noble named Justin tries to attack the shop workers for making him wait. Mudok steps in, easily dodging every single enchanted sword swing Justin throws. He teaches him a harsh lesson by gathering invisible chi, and with just a flick of his finger, boom, he blows a hole right through the guy's wrist.
But then things escalate to a fully cinematic level. The king himself, King Tomalov III, sneaks out in secret for a sweet treat at the shop, but gets ambushed by an elite squad of deadly assassins. Guards are dropping, fireballs are exploding everywhere, and the royal lineage is literally inches away from being wiped out right in front of the parlor.
So Mudok steps out, but not because he cares about kingdom politics. No, he's mad because the explosive ambush melted his ice cream. Seriously. He effortlessly slaughters the entire elite squad, trapping them in an inescapable ice barrier. He turns the forest into a frozen graveyard in mere seconds and casually tells the completely shell-shocked king that his revenge for his melted dessert has been served. Just look at this insane progression for a second. He goes from waking up in the back of a cart to running a wildly successful startup to accidentally saving the kingdom's monarch, all without breaking a single drop of sweat. The king is so overwhelmingly grateful that he decides to grant Mudok a royal title.
And that title is Baronet Blizzard, Lord of the Frozen North. Sounds pretty epic, right? Well, actually, it's a deadly political trap. Corrupt nobles orchestrated this to send him away to a desolate, frozen wasteland, fully expecting him to freeze, fail, and die out there.
But instead of failing, Mudok completely thrives. The northern locals are notoriously rebellious. They absolutely refuse to follow any nobles. So how does the ultimate martial artist win them over? He challenges their greatest hero, Max, to a drinking contest using the strongest burning liquor in the land.
Mudok drinks him under the table without even blinking, instantly uniting the rebellious villagers under his command.
From there, his empire-building strategy is just genius. First, he personally massacres an entire cave of terrifying ice ogres, claiming their massive naturally heated underground cave for his people and naming it White Castle. Then, he organizes his citizens to steal incredibly rare ice wyvern eggs to build up a dominant aerial force.
He essentially transforms this frozen wasteland into an unstoppable juggernaut. He forms the Glacial Storm Knights, raising those hatched wyverns into an unmatched aerial transport fleet. He mines ancient mana stones to create a real-time communication network that puts the rest of the kingdom to absolute shame. He even subdues a teleporting Yeti. Mudok basically turns a punishment into a booming economic and military powerhouse. Okay, but moving into the next major chapter, the romantic reunion. All of this empire building takes a sudden, dramatic pause when a royal inspection group arrives at his new territory, bringing a massive emotional twist to the story.
The princess who arrives is Ezreal, the king's daughter, and she is the exact spitting image of Mudok's lost love, Hu Yang. His glowing pendant confirms it. She is her reincarnation. In this really beautifully awkward moment, he asks her for a lucky charm to give him courage, and it leads to a sudden stolen kiss from the princess that leaves them both completely flustered.
But of course, the romance is violently interrupted. That arrogant noble from earlier, Justin, returns, and he is completely unhinged. Fueled by a humiliating grudge and wielding a cursed magic sword from his corrupt father, he sneaks into Mudok's territory. The sword fuses with his mana to create this monstrous suit of enchanted armor, turning him into a literal magical killing machine.
Justin breaks into the princess's room late at night, aiming to attack her. He is completely blinded by his bruised ego and the dark, corrupting power of his newfound armor. He actually thinks Mudok is already dead from a separate assassin ambush he planned, so he is ready to take out his psychotic rage on Ezreal just for rejecting him.
But Mudok steps in right in the nick of time with this terrifying sense of calm. He uses telekinetic chi to literally drag Justin through the wall, pulling him away from the princess. Justin unleashes a blast of magical energy that's meant to kill a Grandmaster, but Mudok just stands there and blocks the cursed blade with his bare chi, completely unfazed.
He completely bodies the guy. Tired of Justin's arrogant ranting, Mudok hits back with an overwhelming burst of icy chi. He shatters that supposedly invincible cursed sword and blows the enchanted armor to pieces like it's nothing. Justin drops to his knees, utterly defenseless.
Now, Mudok doesn't kill him, but he delivers a punishment that is fundamentally worse than death for a power-hungry noble in a world dictated by magical strength. Mudok knows that simply ending Justin's life would be way too easy and, frankly, too merciful for a man who preys on the weak.
So he steps forward, channels his cold chi directly into Justin's chest, and completely destroys his mana core, his Dantian. He leaves the corrupt noble entirely powerless, ensuring he will never be able to gather or cast magic again, condemning him to live out the rest of his miserable life as the very thing he despised, weak.
As the dust settles and the morning sun rises, the enemy is crushed. Mudok stands victorious, having protected his territory and the woman he loves. Princess Ezreal, clutching the glowing pendant he dropped during the fight, finally realizes that this overpowered lord holds the key to a past life she is just beginning to understand.
So, with an aerial fleet of wyverns at his command, a booming northern economy, a telecommunications network, and a royal romance brewing, you really have to ask yourself, what is this overpowered martial artist going to conquer next? He started on beginner mode, but it looks like he's about to rewrite the rules of this entire magical world. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on Baronet Blizzard.